Hey, aloha, everybody. It's Mark J from beautiful Kauai, Hawaii. And if you don't know me, shame on you. No, if you don't know me, we're myself and my wife, the fabulous Davine. We actually the originators of Go 90 Grow. Training Solutions is our company. We've been around for about 12 or 14 years and provide training for both corporate as well as network marketing companies, best-selling author, and co-creator of the Master Key Experience. So I'm actually here on beautiful Kauai, Hawaii, and what we're going to talk about today is a very simple formula that's been around for about 4,000 years. There aren't any secrets to success. It's a pretty simple pattern. But it almost plays like a secret because it seems like nobody knows about it, or at least nobody does it. And we have a special guest today that has taken advantage of that and not only made tremendous changes in her life, but has actually affected the lives of hundreds and now moving into thousands of women and making their life easier on a key issue that all women go through. So we're on Kauai. I'd love to know where you are. I'd love to know. So type it in the box. Let us know where you are. We'd like to have a little like or heart if you'd like to come to Kauai. Okay. And it'd be great if you could tag your people or friends if you think anybody's interested in giving up a life of quiet desperation and actually succeeding. So with that being said, it's my great pleasure. It's always fantastic to introduce our guest today. It's always fantastic when one of your students actually becomes a teacher and of you. And Lori and I go back a ways. You took Master Key Experience when?
So 2 years ago. So it would have been 2016, 2017.
2016, 2017. And basically, tell you a little bit about Lori. And you can see it on my Facebook page. It'd be great if you like that too. But Lori became a bestseller virtually overnight with a great book called Come Back Strong, Balanced Wellness After Surgical Menopause. But what's really phenomenal about the book is, I think, is a couple of later chapters, which really has to do with success in any way whatsoever. She's a speaker, she's a blogger, she's a certified sports nutritionist, she's a wellness coach with over 8 years of experience in health and nutrition, legitimate, not read an article and I'm an expert. She's a cyclist and a bodybuilder. I just finished my P90X today. So if you're an exerciser, give us a heart or a wow or something, okay, and get your exercises. And she competes and did for years in races, including the grueling 26.2 marathons. Did you ever run in Boston?
I didn't. I did the one in Vermont City, or Burlington, Vermont, which was fabulous.
That's yeah, that's a great one too. Anyway, she's got an undergrad degree in recreation and from Western State College in Colorado, and an advanced certificate in information management from Syracuse University. In other words, she's a little bit more of a rocket scientist than I am. She's currently in upstate New York, which if you've never been up there, it's just magnificent up around those Finger Lakes and everything. By the way, her site is loriandking.com. So let's get busy here. Again, we'd love you to reach out. Hey, there's our friend Nelson, Vince Nelson. Nice to see you. Always a great supporter. Give our best to your beautiful bride. Has done so much to help advance what we do here. And tag your people if they're interested in success. So why don't we turn the clock back
Sure.
to before, and then we'll actually get into the book itself. But what was it like before 2014-15 when you were coming into this experience in life, your general mindset and so forth, and what actually changed for you?
Sure. So in 2014, I was in the best shape of my life. I was an athlete. I was really healthy. I was cycling, and I was also a bodybuilder, and I was competing in a transformation challenge that was a 16-week challenge that was a before and after photo and an essay. And out of 3,000 people, I ended up in honorable mention. I ended up with the six-pack abs. Like, it was just, I was on top of the world. And some routine tests led, long story short, to the discovery of a ovarian cyst, a fibroid, and ultimately it led to a surgery that would end up with a total hysterectomy and oophorectomy. So they removed everything due to the endometriosis that was found. So overnight, practically, I went into surgical menopause. So surgical menopause is menopause, but it just happens with more intensity and it comes on very quicker. It happens as soon as the ovaries are either removed or damaged due to radiation, chemotherapy, medication. So it kind of launched me into a state that I was definitely feeling less than, and I wasn't really sure how to recover and how to find my way back.
Right. And the next step in the journey.
Sure. The next step, it was a process of lots of searching, lots of research. Ultimately, as I was searching different medications, different hormone therapy, things like that, what I discovered after going through complementary medicine and things like that was that I had more control than I thought I did over my symptoms. And a lot of that played into my mindset and my thoughts and my words. And ironically, about a year and a half after my surgery, I was still struggling. And that was when the Master Key came along. And that really helped give me the tools to do so much, to really take my level of healing and recovery to a whole nother step, to really take control over my health and my mind. To become an author, to look at all the positives, any type of challenge, any type of setback, whether it's menopause or divorce or anything, can really feel very challenging, very overwhelming. But we always have more control than we think we do, and we have more tools than we realize, and we just need to apply them and put them in place. And just every day, it's that daily consistent action.
Right. I think you said something really profound, and I hope people are getting this because, and I'm not making light of anything and I'm not making heavy of anything, but you said, whether it's a divorce, sometimes it's the loss of a job. I think for a lot of people, they're living lives of quiet desperation.
Yes.
And they get to that quote unquote menopause stage or menopause stage, which is really the same thing. And you start the disillusionment with the goals that are set for us by other people. And we don't even know why we're discontent in some cases very specific, bad relationship. We don't like our job. We don't feel that we're appreciated, whatever. It could be dozens of things, big things. Like I said, a loss of a job or a divorce could be a little thing. Like, we get out of denial about the fact that we're just not happy what we're doing. And so while menopause is a very real and tangible thing, all these other things are really the same obstacle. That's what you're talking about. And what I really loved in your book, which, by the way, here it is, Come Back Strong. Okay. There it is. And the main thing, what I really loved about it that I think is so applicable to everybody was in chapter 6, where you went over thoughts, words, and feelings and linked that to attitude, perspective, focus. One of the things that Davine loves to say, the co-creator of the Master Key Experience, and we'll talk a little bit about that. That's not really the point of this broadcast, but it's really the trail of success of so many thousands of people, is that we don't see the world the way it is. We see it the way that we are. And obviously you picked up the mechanisms that affected your attitude. Could you tell us? I think that's just such, I think that's the little hinge that turns the big door. I'm not the author of the book, you are. But I think, that speaks to all people. Could you explain your perspective of that and exactly how that transformed you from struggling and feeling maybe a little defeated or a setback a little bit, to finding that passion that you talk about in chapter 7. The choices, that you found purpose and you found passion and took something that knocked you down, and now you're using it to serve and help other people. And now you're getting written up in the New York Post. People are calling you from all over the planet. I was glad you didn't forget us. So could you talk a little bit about the fact that words are really thoughts expressed, and how you stumbled on that or found it, and what you did to make a difference in your own mind?
Absolutely. And just to say, again, whether it's menopause or divorce or whatever the situation, perspective plays a huge role. We can really get into our pity party and our thoughts that negativity can bring us down. And when it's a health issue, science has proven that our thoughts, and that if they turn negative and they're fear-based, then it's going to affect our stress levels, it's going to affect our cortisol, and it's going to affect our health. So I took that very seriously and really started guarding what comes in. That's one of the biggest tools, as far as what are you reading? What are you watching on TV? What are you listening to? Are you filling your mind with some of the greats, whether it's Emerson or Waddles or, the Bible, or just so many great things out there that you can fill your head with. Gratitude was a huge one, choosing what you focus on instead of focusing on what's going wrong or the negative, turning that around. And, the law of substitution, the idea of swapping it. You can't think about two things at once. Your mind can't be divided. You can't be negative and positive at the same time. So swapping those things out, knowing, what to fill your brain in, and having those tools ahead of time. I think I always had a kudos box. So it was this idea of a shoebox that had all the thank you cards, all the cards from my dad for years when I was in college, all of the things that built me up and made me feel good. I have in a shoebox. I still have it upstairs. And whenever I'm feeling down, I can go through those. Well, in the Master Key, we learned a really great tool with flashcards where, whether you're in the grocery store or whatnot, you can literally be flashing through your cards. And it's a great tool to turn a negative around to positive. And so I really found that how close attention I paid to what I was thinking, to my words that I talked about my body, words about what I talked about my life. And when I made those more positive, all of a sudden things started leaning more towards the positive. And it was just a really powerful experience. And my husband was a proponent of this from very early on. I remember in our early dating stages, if I got upset, he'd say, well, what are you thinking about right now? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he knew how whatever I was thinking directly connected to my emotions. So, it's just all really powerful. And whenever we're recovering from any type of setback or any type of challenge, it really does help to move us forward when we're focused on where we want to go instead of what's possibly the negative or the setback or the challenge.
Right. Now, you threw a couple of phrases out there that I just want to do a quick, mini educate
Sure.
people a little bit about it. One of the things that you talked about was the law of substitution. And there's 7 laws that run the mind, greatest mechanism on the planet. And most people never learn the rules of how it operates. And one of them is the law of substitution. And that is what Lori said, is you can't hold 2 separate thoughts at the same time. You also talked about gratitude. Now, the Master Key system was written by Charles Haanel. And if you've studied Waddles, and obviously you have, and you also want to check out Lori at Tapas for Life. She's got a great course over there called Come Back Strong, Balanced Wellness after Surgical Menopause. Balanced wellness during menopause. But it's balanced wellness during anything. And that is by using your mind. And you talked about gratitude. We talk in the course all the time that gratitude is a cause, not an effect, and not to list the same 2 or 3 things that you're grateful for every day, but that once you eat up the easy list, the kids, the husband, the day I was married, all those gratitudes, it starts to get more finite for a lot of people, and you start to notice every day, and that gratitude is a cause, not an effect. And that becomes the launch pad as you're looking for kindness and gratitude all day long so that you can write your 3 things down, it moves from being an exercise for a lot of people into just the state of being. What is that, what your experience is, and how did that work for you?
Absolutely. It's, it's as simple as in my email signature. I sign and how I sign all my books. My email signature always says, with love, gratitude, and kindness, Lori King. And I sign my books that way too, because I want to focus on love, gratitude, and kindness. And the more I focus on that, the more I see more of it in my life and all around me. And that was another big one that learned from the Master Key. If you look for kindness, you're going to find it. If you look for gratitude, you're going to find even more things to be grateful for and appreciate.
Right. You also talked, I think, a really great thing that probably eludes most of us was you talked about guarding the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And Haanel writes about the vigilant guardsman at the gate, a lot of different ways to say it. What does that mean to you? So someone, let's paint a picture. Someone's facing an obstacle as altering as menopause is for a woman, or even menopause itself. And so I think what's really interesting is Wattles points out, since people started studying poverty, more people are poor. Since we started studying obesity, more people are obese. Okay, it's a very strange thing. They're drawing the problem to them.
Mm-hmm.
With all the negativity out there, what's your best formula to keep a vigilant guardsman at the gate, to keep that stuff out without focusing on it at all?
I believe, really just taking an inventory sometimes of our life. And with anything, it's easy there's so many tools at our disposal these days to really go down the rabbit hole when it comes to research, and whether it's menopause or, any other, or, situation or challenge. It's easy to get into groups and get surrounded by people that are just whining and complaining and blaming. And so it's really about finding and seeking out people, whether it's on social media, whether it's in your own life, right? And sometimes that's a challenge because our closest friends and family can be the most toxic or the most negative. So it's really balancing that out, seeking out other forms of positive, people, positive, sometimes it's laughter. Like laughter is a big one for me. And this was another one with my husband where he'd say, what movie do you want to go to? And I always picked the drama, and I would lean into the drama or something that would make me cry, which is a release, but he would always pick the comedy, and he still does. And now I choose to pick more of the comedy because laughter is so powerful, and it can be anything from, looking on YouTube or just a daily practice every day, spending 5 minutes of finding something that makes you laugh. Celebrating your joy, things like that. But really just doing an inventory and looking at, what are you watching on the news? What are you reading at your bedside table? That especially, what are you reading the last thing you do before you go to bed? Because that's a powerful thing we learned in Master Key as well, of, those last few minutes before we doze off to sleep, but also what we're waking up to. It can be in our music. So it's just really kind of taking an inventory of all those things that surround us and starting to pluck the weeds and starting to move them more towards the positive, and knowing that we'll get more of that. If we study obesity, we get more obesity. If we study health, we're going to get more health.
Right. So the Master Key Experience that Lori's talking about, it's a course that comes around once a year. This is not a commercial for it. Out of the incredible generosity of people like Lori, who took the course and completely altered the course of their life. The course teaches us how to make changes, not changes I think you should make, but you'll determine your own choices. That starts in September, and you cannot buy that course at any price. Your tuition has already been paid. It's not the bogus scholarships that you hear from all these online peddlers. They tell you you're going to give a scholarship, and they tell you the course is $3,000, and then they charge you $2,000 until you gave you $1,000 scholarship. There's a true scholarship here. Nobody can buy the course. The previous members generously have donated their money based on the experiences that they had. And you can find out more about that at masterkeyexperience.com. That's coming in September. Because we give you one-on-one hands-on support, There's a limited number of scholarships, so get on that early notification list. Now, I want to tell you about a commercial that I saw. This commercial, I think, is hilarious. This guy goes into a cell phone store and he asks like 25 questions about data and gigabytes and this and that. And then he goes to a tire store and he asks what's the rubber content? Where does it come from? He asks about 20 questions. Then he gets in the doctor's office and the doctor says, you got any questions? And he says, no. And I think what's really important, Lori's great message here. And by the way, if you have some questions, we'll be wrapping this up in a couple of minutes. Just go ahead and leave your questions in there. We'll definitely get back and answer every one. But what I really love about the keys and Lori's message is she says, unlike that guy that, asks all the questions about the phone, all the questions about the tires, and the doctor says, any questions? No. Okay. Lori seems to have a totally different approach, that you have the power to make a difference, to participate in your own health, and that you can find balance. How does a woman, because it is devastating when this comes on, particularly when it's surgical, because it's sort of, you kind of know it's coming, but you can stay in denial about it until it's there. But when it's boom on you, what are your suggestions for women that are facing this? How do they participate in the best care possible for themselves?
Absolutely. That's a great question, Mark. It's definitely, I'm a huge advocate for educating yourself, knowing your personal and medical history, family medical history, personal medical history, asking a lot of questions, doing your own research. If you don't understand, ask questions. Another one is bringing a friend to your appointments with you. We're not always, any patient isn't the most objective all the time. So bring someone that can either take notes or just help you to capture the important details. The lifestyle things that we can do, if you smoke, stop. Make sure in general overall, there's the things like exercise and good nutrition and lowering stress. A big part of my recovery that I learned about for myself and what I needed was more rest and recovery that I wasn't taking. But just even since the book has come out, another valuable one I've learned, which is ironic for a girl with an undergraduate degree in recreation, is to remember to play. Play is so important at any stage. But really just being an advocate and having those conversations with your doctors. And if they're not taking you seriously, then consider getting a second opinion or switching doctors. But taking what they said, our doctors are there for wonderful reasons, but it's really about educating and being a partner with them and co-creating with them for your best health.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I think a lot of times when something comes up in our life, in this case, we're talking about menopause, but again, we'll go back to the simple ones. We use divorce, whatever. I think that it's so traumatic that we immediately are submissive to any authority figure rather than, I say interview the doctor and trust your gut. I always tell people that. And Lori's a big advocate of, trying to share with you that you have the power as a woman to participate and make a difference. And women generally have wonderful intuition. So even I think that advice, I've never heard that before. It's great advice. Bring somebody with you that's going to be supportive. And, and I would bring the most skeptical person, right? So that you do ask the hard questions.
Right.
These are big decisions.
Right.
So to get more information about that and come back strong from virtually anything, chapters 6 and 7, no matter what you're facing, will bring you back strong from anything. So success, which is really, when you get down to it, it's about modifying your behavior in relation to your history so that the actions that you take and the results that you get are different. Give us your best 1 or 2 do's for making change, because that's what we're really talking about is change. Your 1 or 2 best for making change, and maybe 1 or 2 things to avoid.
I think meditation was a really profound one for me. And I was the typical type A, work hard, play hard, to sit and be quiet, like, was out of the realm. I can't do that. Right. And so again, not to, advertise for the course, but when it was introduced to us in the course, it was the idea of just being still 15 minutes a day. And that was really for me where it started, because in the beginning I didn't have to worry about my mind or where it went. It was like, just focus on the act of being still, and everything else fell into place after that, as far as learning to do that. So meditation is huge, just having that quiet time, that time of reflection, that time to focus and quiet the brain from all the chatter, because we can't even hear our heart's purpose when so much is going on. So really getting still and getting quiet was a powerful one for me. Success. So definitely creating those habits, habits of gratitude, habits of kindness, habits of this idea of co-creating and not competing. There's so much abundance in the world. And when we come at life and whatever we do, whatever your job is, whatever your passion is, whatever your purpose is, when you come at it from the idea that the world is abundance, then there's no worry that, we have to compete with anybody. So all of a sudden you start helping other people along the way, just because, if I help other authors, well, I'm still going to make it as an author. If you pour that greatness and pay that forward, so to speak, it's all going to come back around, because there's enough for everybody. Some of the don'ts, that's a tough one. Staying away from. I'll have to reflect back on that and answer that.
Well, you talked about being. I already got don'ts from you, which the number one don't I got from you is, don't drop your guard. Be thoughtful about what you're letting in. Don't just go through your day without being thoughtful about, do I want myself in this environment?
Right.
Okay.
Right. And know where you're going. Like, if you don't know where you're going, then you're never, everything's going to be the same. It's never going to change. So if you're happy where you are, great. But if you're not, then realize that today, there's no better time than today to start making changes. So don't wait. Do it now.
One of the things that I believe, and we talk about it in the course all the time, which is really, Haanel got a lot of his material from Waddles, obviously had an influence. There are no common people. And Lorianne King is no common person. Taking adversity and turning it into a service, and now seen as a hero, all the way up into one of the largest papers in the world, the Post. Just did a beautiful article on her. It's just fantastic what's happening. She took adversity and proved that it is true that every adversity has the seed for greater achievement. So it's LoriAnnKing.com. LoriAnnKing.com. Get over there. You'll be glad that you did. Lori, so nice to see you. Love your success. Peace be the journey.
Thanks, Mark.
All right. Ciao.